A long time ago, the kingdom of Statis was at peace. His people lived without conflict, needing only fresh water and numbers. Statis inhabitants liked to record the measure of everything: the number of houses and carts, the number of shops and farms. A young boy, however, looked very different from the others. He had no interest at all in these so predictable and boring statistical stories. Young IcaRius sleeps without suspecting events taking place in the Statis kingdom. This is how the story of IcaRius begins, a serious video game dedicated to learning the language of the runes. The player evolves into a fancy world in which he discovers, step by step, the magical universe of air, the runes language, and its spells to make statistics, graphs, and reports. The Fun Camp Air initiative is an educational adventure where trainees, over a whole day, try to save the world of Statis, threatened by the terrible wizard Sassos. For this, trainees must both succeed in a Zelda-like video game and in air learning tutorials, which give them answers related to video game enigma. Overall, the adventure includes 13 tutorials and nearly 4 hours of video games, with bosses to defeat, artifacts to win, secret passages to discover.
Based on our experience of training more than 1,600 professionals in R thus far, we were particularly enthusiastic about participating in this project when we were contacted to join. On the one hand, because the format was very original and ambitious, and on the other hand, because a lot was at stake for the beneficiary audiences. How can we propose a learning experience to discover R that is fun and motivating? An experience that can both sow the seed of programming concepts and remain a vehicle for empowerment. Thinker was delighted to support INSEE on this topic that is dear to our hearts because it's our core mission to help people develop their skills in the R programming language, especially if it is in a process of openness and inclusion, and even if it means upsetting the classics in this area. We quickly realized that we might be responsible for the very first contact with code or with a console. Therefore, we carefully scrutinized and paid attention to the learning experience. We realized that with great power comes great responsibilities, and we had to give our best out of respect for our target audiences. We activated 2 levers during the building up of the learning framework: quick wins and tidyverse. To provide learners as soon as possible, tangible and motivating demonstration of their successful interaction with the machine is what Meine Chetniklia Rudel calls the cake-first approach. The aim is to build a path that regularly brings quick wins to maintain motivation and commitment. We also made the choice of the tidyverse and the pipe to chain the operations into an organized data processing flow. Because the tidyverse is a way of programming that says what it does and does what it says in a consistent universe, learners wouldn't be disoriented or intimidated by quirky symbols such as square brackets and dollars. I invite you to discover with Mel in the next interview what pedagogical tools we used to realize these intentions.
The learning time is very short. That's why we use LearnR. LearnR makes it easy to turn any R Markdown document into an interactive tutorial. It allows integration of both educational content and exercise. With onboard R console, the main advantage is that you only have one document for learning and practice, and it saves participants from learning the RStudio interface. Another tool we use for maximizing the learning time is Person. Person is just like Scratch for LearnR. It allows participants to produce solutions to exercise without having to type code, just by manipulating already written piece of code. Person prevents the participants from just typing error code and allows them to focus on understanding the main logic of R. Small functions which, when put together, produce big things.
One of the issues facing people wanting to learn programming is having the proper setup. For the Fun Camp, we wanted users to be able to live the experience regardless of their hardware, software, and other technical prerequisites. Fortunately, we have access to what we call the Onyxia's Data Lab, which is basically an open source gateway to everything a data scientist could opt for, ranging from state-of-the-art on-demand services to flexible data storage. The built-in trainings feature lets the user create and access their own learning environment. They can experience the Fun Camp at their own pace directly from any internet browser.
FunCamp was first experienced during an afternoon at Céphile in Libourne, which is a training center that provides a part of the staff of our National Statistical Institute. We have chosen to experiment the game with 24 students who were volunteers. They were dispatched into small teams of two-person students dealing mainly with IcaRius quest and the second one dealing mainly with the spellbook. Both could play the game and answer the question in the spellbook, but for practical reasons, the game was running on one laptop and the spellbook was running on another one. 4 persons were designated to accompany these groups, 1 person dealing with 3 groups simultaneously. The goal of this accompaniment was, of course, to help students during their quest, but also to report bugs and other problems encountered during the game. This afternoon ended up with a questionnaire permitting to have a feedback from the students about this new learning experience. The global conclusion of this day was that the FunCamp was very appreciated, combining a playful and a learning moment. It was definitely an encouraging first test.
The more the player learns with air tutorials, the stronger IcaRius becomes in the game.